Hi, this is Randy from Friday's Golf, and welcome to Hard Boiled, the segment where I give you my first impression on new golf equipment, and you pretend to care. Now, in today's episode, I'm excited to talk to you about a product that I actually hit over a month ago, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it. I wasn't even allowed to mention the name of the product, but that embargo is lifted, and today I can finally tell you about the new PING G400 driver. Now, the new PING G400 is the latest addition in Ping's G series drivers. I don't know why they decided to go from 30 to 400, but they did, and here we are. The PING G400 will come in three options like it has in the past. You have your standard G400 head, then you'll have the LS Tech head, and then you're also going to have the SF Tech head, where the LS Tech is going to be low spin, and the SF Tech is straight flight, which is kind of your fade reducing driver. I've only hit the G400, so it's the only one I feel confident enough to talk to you about. I've taken this club to the course. I've played 27 holes with it, so all of my information is going to be based off on-course play. I haven't got this on the launch monitor, haven't dug into the data yet, but that's to come, definitely. Standard procedure, I'm going to talk a little bit about the features and benefits, break down the technology within the club itself, and then kind of give you my opinion on it. We're going to start with the crown of this golf club. Now, obviously, we've seen the Turbulators before. This is something that I like to see manufacturers do. When they come out with technology, they don't just abandon it in their next model. We've seen this all the way back to the G30.
G30 drivers got turbulators.
So we know about turbulators, but in the G series, they actually introduced this dragonfly and the vortex chamber here in the back of the golf club. Now, in the G400, they have thinned out the crown even more, and they've extended that dragonfly all the way to the end of the golf club. So it saves you weight, it lowers the center of gravity, and it also increases the MOI, because what they've done with that extra weight is put it in a tungsten bar that sits all the way back on the sole of the golf club. And what that's going to do is it's going to increase launch, it's going to decrease spin, and we all know what that does for us. Now, they've also included a high-density backweight, which sits in the exact same position on all the drivers. The only thing that changes is the position of that tungsten bar. On the LS Tech, it's going to be in front of it, and on the SF Tech, it's going to be positioned more towards the heel. Now, I want to talk a little bit about aerodynamics. I mean, we know about turbulators.
Got turbulators.
We know about the dragonfly, the vortex chamber, and Ping really hasn't given up on that fight against air resistance. They think aerodynamics is the frontier in which we can improve golf equipment most drastically. So according to them, if you were to take a Ping G30 driver, which was your original turbulator design,
Turbulators.
and you were to test it up against the G400, you would have to make that G30 driver 295 cc's in order for it to have the same aerodynamic characteristics as the G400. That's pretty cool. They've also improved the face of the driver, which I can't remember what the name of the titanium was that they used. But anyway, they thinned it out, they made it a little bit more flexible, and the titanium itself, I think, was a little bit stronger as far as they could thin it out and it wouldn't crack. I don't know. You can look it up. Another cool feature of the G400, which I wish I could show you, but the club that they built me actually has the tour shaft in it, which is still, it's a cool looking shaft. There's nothing wrong with it. But their stock shaft is actually kind of a copper color. So when you're standing there looking at the driver on the shelf, it's copper. It's plain as day. But they've actually came up with, it's called like color shifting technology. I don't know. It makes the shaft iridescent. So when you're looking at the driver on the shelf, it's copper. But when you take the driver and you lower it into playing position, it turns jet black. I mean, I don't know what purpose this serves other than, it just makes it look clean at address position, but it's like the coolest thing ever. I don't think it has any bearing on performance at all, but it's neat. You grab a copper shaft and you do this and it turns black. Makes me want to pick it up. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about before I give you my opinion is something called engineered acoustics. And when I heard this for the first time, it took me a while because my brain melted. But basically, Ping has devised a way to design how a driver is going to sound before they ever make a prototype. So what that means is they can design a driver on a computer and test how it sounds before they ever make it, which is kind of crazy because just think of how many drivers would have been saved if they knew what they sounded like before they actually send them into production. I can think of a couple. I spoke with one of their engineers and he told me that when they designed the G driver that, they didn't have this technology, and acoustically it made the same tone or the same frequency as a baby crying, which is not good. Which brings me to my point. And I don't like hyperbole, but the PING G400 driver is one of the best sounding drivers that I've ever hit in my life. It's like a thuddy thwack. It's kind of like when you hit a persimmon on the screws. I mean, it has that kind of feel, that kind of sensation. And I know that, you know, what we hear, we then translate into what we feel with golf, and that's no different here. This is one of the best sounding and feeling drivers I have ever hit. Even if you know you miss it off the sweet spot, it still sounds and it still feels fantastic. So I think that's what most of the people, you know, in the reviews that you watch are going to be talking about, is how great this driver sounds and how great it feels. Because, my opinion, it does. Sounds great. Now that we've talked about the technology, I want to give you my 2 cents on the driver. I've already told you that I love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels. I think that it's a good looking driver. I think that shelf appeal with the color changing shaft, which gives you reason enough to pick it up off the rack and just kind of see what I'm talking about there. But overall, the club looks great. I think it's very sexy. I love the matte finish on top, the non-reflective. I think they've kind of blended that dragonfly design into the head much better than they did the G. Just from an address position, it just looks a lot cleaner, and the club head itself is way more inviting than Ping drivers in the past. They've always, to me, in the G series, seemed a little bit flat, a little bit pancakey, a little bit stretched back, but this driver is very clean, very sexy, and I think that it's going to appeal to a vast audience of players. I like the way it hit. I like the way it performed. Anytime you're talking about a Ping driver, obviously MOI is going to come into the conversation. They've been known to make very forgiving drivers in the past, and the G400 is no exception to that. It's a very forgiving driver. I found that when you hit it, you know, slightly off center, whether it be toe or heel, it didn't work itself offline too much. They talk about vertical MOI too, so you're going to find that shot window more consistently. And when I went out on the golf course, it seemed to launch the ball very high. It didn't have a lot of spin on it. And in the past, at least for me, G driver tended to be a little spinny. This was, it performed very well. So the first time I played with this driver was actually in Arizona at Moon Valley Country Club. Not bragging. I went out and I hit 11 of 14 fairways with it, which I was surprised because typically, you know, when you play a new course or, you know, you play with a driver that you haven't played before, you usually have that kind of getting used to it period where you're trying to find the timing of it. It felt great. I talked to you about the feel, and I talked to you about the sound of it, and I think that kind of instilled confidence that just, you know, after, you know, you miss one, a little heel, a little toe, and it still finds the fairway and it still sounds and feels great, it kind of gives you a little bit of a liberating feeling, like, oh, you know, I can go at this one a little bit more and not worry about, you know, missing it slightly. So maybe there's something to that, or maybe I'm crazy. After the honeymoon phase, I came back home and I actually took it out to a course that I play quite a bit, that I struggle to find fairways at. And I went out there and I think I went like 4 or 7 fairways, which is not bad for me at that location. But the shots I did miss, they weren't that far offline. You know, you're talking about a couple yards into the rough, which is once again kind of confident instilling when you know you can miss this club just a little bit and it's still gonna, you know, find the fairway or close to it. Now, having said that, if you cut across this club with an open face, it's still gonna slice. If you swing out at it with a closed face, it's still gonna draw. This club isn't a fix-all, but I just like the way it felt. I like the way it performs. I like the way it looks. I think it's very clean. I think it's very welcoming. And I think the technology merits some attention. I think that they've done some things here that might intrigue people to try this driver out, and I would definitely encourage you to do so. I'm definitely going to put this club up against my driver that's in my bag now, which is a Callaway Epic, which is a driver that I absolutely love. And I'm going to do a more comprehensive analysis on this club because I'm very interested in what the launch monitor has to say and what kind of numbers I'm actually getting. I think that's everything. I don't know. You'll have propaganda thrown at you in the next couple of weeks, and you can read all that and have a great time doing it. But in conclusion, I think that the PING G400 driver is definitely a step up from what the PING G was. I think that it looks better. I think that it performs and sounds better than the PING G did, at least for me. So go into your shop, try it out, test it out, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. So thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, put them down there below. But like I said, go in and demo this sucker, because I think you're going to I think you're going to hear and feel immediately what I'm talking about when I say that this is one of the best feeling and sounding clubs I've ever hit. So thanks for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.